Hello, everyone, and welcome to another one of our summer virtual series. My name is Tara Stevenson. I serve as the Vice President of Student Affairs at Flagler College, and I am super excited for tonight because we get to talk about just all the different opportunities and experiences that our students get to have away from campus. I love hearing about what they do on campus. But tonight we get to hear about maybe some of the things that are away from campus. Couple housekeeping things. As always, we are recording this, and so we are working with our teams to get them online. As of right now, we know that our first one living on campus has been posted to the Flagler College YouTube channel, and we're going to follow up on some of those other ones. If you have any questions for our speaker tonight or anything else that we can help out with, please feel free to use the Q&A and we will try to get to those throughout this evening's discussion. But without further ado, I'm going to let our guest introduce herself and tell us what she's all about at Flagler.
Sure. Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us. My name is Jessica Howell. I oversee global education and international partnerships at Flagler College, and I've been at Flagler since 2011. Academic background is I'm a Russian historian and Latin American historian, but for the past several years, I have overseen our global ed initiatives, which include a whole bunch of different things that students can do while they're here.
So let's go ahead and first just where are you all located on campus?
Great question. We are in a excellent location that a lot of, especially first year students, pass by on a regular basis. We are right off the main breezeway. So if you are walking through the breezeway and you can go one way to get up into the rotunda, that is one way, or you can go into one of our little alcoves. So there's health services is on one little alcove. We're on the other one. We are inside of the Multicultural Center. It is a great space for students. We have some lounge areas in there. We have a Keurig machine. So if you need your coffee fix real quick, we have a
Priority.
web printer. Yes, well, college students apparently need that. We have a web printer. So if students are, they forgot they need to print something out, they can run down, come to our place. But it's also just a place where we have a lot of programming. We have a lot of different clubs that will reserve the space. So it's a place where students can come and hang out. And my office happens to be in there as well.
Absolutely. So if you could kind of give us a high level, like what is study abroad?
Sure. So study abroad is anything related to education outside of the United States. I like to use global programming instead of study abroad. There's also education abroad. You'll hear those words as well. But I think most people think of study abroad, they're not sure. Are they talking about a semester or a short term or a long term? So just think about study abroad as anything that gets you outside of the country in a formal education setting. And again, that could be many different kind of hats that could come in.
And why should students coming in their very first time at Flagler think about study abroad? Or maybe if we've got families with other students that are returning, like why study abroad?
So my first answer is because you can. Um, there is a very small window of time in your life where you don't have obligations and responsibilities that prevent you from just taking up and jet setting the world. So that would be my first answer. But there's a lot of other things that come in there. And there's so much data that we're now getting globally that really help kind of push these points through. So um, the biggest one I think for students is, and I apologize to the viewers, I am wrangling a kitten right now. We are fostering kittens, so I have kittens everywhere. And for those of you cat people out there, they like to get on laptops when they see them. So, but the one thing that I love to highlight about study abroad and education abroad is there is something we call the global competency model. And at the heart of that global competency model is self-awareness. So one of the best things that study abroad teaches us is it teaches us about ourselves. It gives us personal growth. It helps us learn what do we like? What do we not like? What makes us uncomfortable? Why are we uncomfortable with that? But it also gives us a new perspective. It is fun. Like, I think it's silly when people are like, oh, it's an academic program. It is an academic program, but you're going to have fun. You're going to get to see a lot of amazing experiences, as Tara knows, because she joined me on a program one time. But you also just get to do a lot of networking. You get to meet other people. other people from other disciplines come together that you might not know. You get to meet people from, another country. Now you might have a built-in like vacation spot because people are like, oh, come back and visit us. Um, but the communication that you gain, like the learning how to communicate with others, time management, being flexible,
Mhm.
learning how to adapt, like those are all things that are very, very appealing to employers. And so when you've studied abroad, when you've gone abroad and participated in these things, employers know, oh, they've had to like adjust things quickly. They've had to navigate through language barriers. They've had to figure out how to exchange money. They've had to, navigate through a bunch of different situations that people that don't go out of the country don't have to do. So I really think that there are so many things that we can't like pinpoint what you learn when you're studying abroad, but just that overall personal growth and self-awareness is absolutely incredible.
Oh, and I mean, like you said, I got to visit on one of the trips with you, and seeing that happen with the students was
Mhm.
like quite magical.
I was gonna say, you have to say your word that you always say about it. It's
Yes, I
magical.
always use that word magical because it truly was seeing like
Mhm.
how they take what you've learned in a book or take what you've heard and really apply it. And the other thing I always share is I loved my time in my own undergraduate studies, loved my institution. That was the one thing that I wish that I had been able
Mhm.
to do was to study
Yep.
abroad. And I remember walking through the office and perusing the things and thinking that just wasn't for me. And
Mhm.
I love just hearing from the students when they have been put into a situation that is so outside of their comfort zone and how they navigated it and then how excited they are that
Yeah.
they did
And
it.
just being willing to be vulnerable, to put yourself in that position, and it really is life changing. So I encourage students to do it for all kinds of reasons.
So, what are the different types of study abroad, global education that our students at Flagler can participate in?
So we have kind of like three big buckets, and then within those buckets, we have things that fall into that. So we have faculty-led programs, and that can be divided into flagship study abroad or just academic-focused faculty-led short-term programs. And I'll go back and kind of chat about each of these. But then we also have semester abroad, where students can go for an entire semester to locations literally all around the world.
Mhm.
And then the final one that is really becoming more of interest to students with the desire to have like more job related skills is global internships. So going back to the faculty-led programs, the two different categories there, we have the flagship ones and then the standalone traditional faculty-led. So flagship, remember, is that Flagler sophomore high impact practice. It happens during your second year at Flagler, traditionally your sophomore year. And it is non-discipline specific. So you could be a history major or a science major, and you could do a program that is led by somebody that teaches theater. And the
Mhm.
focus of that program is still going to be cultural competency, cultural intelligence. So that is how flagship works. You don't have to do a study abroad when you do a flagship, but you certainly can. But the other option is those short-term faculty-led programs. And those are discipline specific. So for me as a historian, I used to lead faculty-led academic programs where students would take a course. So back in the day when we could take students to Russia, we do not go to Russia anymore right now. Um, they could take a course from me about, the triumph and tragedy of Russian history. And it would be like a 6-week online course where we would have regular meetings, we would have, papers, research projects, whatever. And then within that time period, we go abroad and we take what we've done in the classroom and we experience it and we kind of further our studies abroad. For those faculty-led programs, you get an academic credit within your discipline or with whatever discipline it's being led by. You get a letter grade, and it typically helps advance your academic program. Whereas flagship study abroads are pass fail and they are a graduation requirement. Again, you don't have to do study abroad, but they're not as discipline specific. So that's one kind of bucket that we have. Then we also have our semester abroads. And these are fantastic opportunities for our students to go abroad for an entire semester. And there are opportunities we have through some of our partners where you can pay your Flagler tuition keep all of your scholarships, all of your grants that you have through Flagler, and go to a different location for an entire semester. There's other programs where we work with a provider and we kind of guide you through the process, but your Flagler aid doesn't transfer there because we don't have certain agreements with them. But literally anywhere that you want to go, you can find a program that we can help you get to. The key to semester abroad is, making sure that you work with our office to identify the programs and then make sure that your courses are going to count when they come back. So I don't encourage students to like just go traveling all over the world and doing all kinds of programs and then not getting credit for it. So that's where my office comes in play there. And then finally, global internships, just either partnering with us and some partners that we have that have said, hey, we'd be willing to take on some interns if you have any, or if you're like, hey, I would like to do this. Can you help me find something? We can help you find something. Or perhaps parents out there, you're like, oh, our company is always looking for interns and we have locations around the world. Let us know because that is the number one request we're getting from students is an opportunity to do an internship abroad for more kind of like international experience.
Absolutely. And you touched on it a little bit. We did have a question come in about um, tuition and fees and stuff like that. So could you touch on
Sure.
that just a little bit as we start to dive into what the process looks like overall?
Yeah. So with faculty-led study abroads, you do have to pay tuition for the class that you're going to be taking with that faculty member, and then you do have to pay the program cost for that program. So they range. I mean, it depends on what country you're going to. It depends on how long you're going to be there. I would say most programs, and when I say program, we're talking about the trip. I don't like to call it a trip because it's not vacation. But the most programs run about $3,000. I mean, that's like a kind of average, but we have some that are, 5,000 because it depends on how long they're going. And then you have to pay the tuition as well. So those that's typically how that works. Flagship, there is no added tuition, but you do have to pay that program cost again. You're having to pay for the housing, the food in some places, the transportation while you're there. And then semester abroad, it just depends on if you do with one of our partners that we have or if you're doing it with a provider that we collaborate with. It'll all depend on the funding there.
Yeah, and so that's something that they can work with your office on. Do you recommend connecting with financial aid before, after talking with you? Maybe talking with you first to figure out which
Yep.
program is going to be.
Yeah, so I always recommend like come see me. If you mention to your case advisor that studying abroad is something you want to do, they will usually funnel you to me, but you don't have to wait for that. You don't need a referral to drop by our office. You can swing by and come and talk to me about the different options. We have not just myself, but we also have global ambassadors, and these are our work study students that many of them, if they're not international students, they have traveled in one of these capacities and they can talk like student to student language because sometimes I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about. And the student's like, oh, that's, this. So we can guide you through that process. I always tell students, let me be your resource. Don't go and hunt all the other offices down. Come to me. I probably have the answer. And if not, I can get it for you and get back to you. I don't want to send you on a wild goose chase. So I'm happy to work with students through that process.
So let's go ahead and now dive into that process. And so, what are some
Sure.
different steps or requirements that students need to be aware of?
So qualifications, the kind of the basic qualifications is we need you to have 24 credit hours. And the reason for that is we need to be able to attest to your academic abilities. If you are wanting to do a semester abroad and I have to officially nominate you and kind of give my recommendation. I need to see that you are going to be able to rise to the rigor of whatever institution you're wanting to go to. So 24 credit hours is kind of our threshold there. We do require a 2.5 GPA. I do tell students if you're wanting to go to some of the programs in Europe, a 2.5 GPA is probably not going to be sufficient for them. So, really keep that in mind that might be Flagler's threshold, but for some other semester abroad programs, they may be looking for higher. And then you can't just decide that you're doing something and go do it and not tell us. You can, let me take that back. You can, but then your credits are going to come back and we're going to say, sorry, we didn't vet those. We didn't approve them. And then you will have had an amazing trip, not an academic program, according to us. So that's kind of the basic qualification is 24 credit hours, 2.5 GPA, and then making sure that you're working with my office. As far as timing, like students always say, like, when should I go? There is no perfect time. Some students have no idea what they're passionate about and what major they want to do until their junior year. So then come see me and let's get it on the books. Some students come in, they know exactly what they want to do, and I'm like, well, let's do it sophomore year. It really depends on what kind of program you're doing, what you're wanting to accomplish through that program as to when that timing would be ideal. If you are wanting to do a faculty-led program, those applications and deposits are always due by February 1st. So that would be those discipline specific ones that are going to happen in the summer. Um, Flagship, the crazy thing that I think just like boggles people's minds is your freshman year is when you're going to register for your flagship. That'll happen a year later.
No.
So it's like this teaser of, you get this information about what programs you get to choose from. You register in April, and then you wait either for January or May to roll around that next year. And then if you're doing a semester abroad program, if you're wanting to do a summer program, those deadlines are in March. If you're wanting to do a fall program, that deadline is always April 1st. And then if you're wanting to do a spring program, that deadline is November 1st. So the number one question that students ask me about semester abroad is they're like, I know I want to do it. Can I go ahead and apply? You can't apply until the semester before. We just don't have enough information to
Yeah.
get your application going. But with visa regulations around the world getting really tight, I would say that November 1st deadline is pretty that's pretty cutting it close. So if you know you want to go abroad and you know you want to do it in the spring, I would come see me in August. And so we can get that process started. So the earlier you talk to us, the better, especially when it comes to securing visas.
And then what types of required documents should students start to get ready, definitely have by those deadlines?
Passport. You should always have your passport before, like, I'd go and get your passport now because a lot of students don't realize that they need their a birth certificate and they'll say, oh, well, they're back home and my parents don't want to mail them. Totally understand that. But at the same time, these are legal documents that you're going to have ownership of eventually. So you should probably just go and get your passport now. So that way you have it. You never know when an opportunity is going to come up where I'm like, hey, I've got a donor that wants to send some students to Poland. Who wants to go? And if you don't have your passport, you can't go in 3 weeks. So you definitely, I would say, definitely need a passport. Aside from that, until I know what country you're wanting to go to, I don't know what kind of documentations you might need for your visa, but you definitely need to have your passport. Once we start the process, you will work with me to go through the courses that you might take. I will then reach out to department chairs. I will help you through that whole approval process to make sure that those credits are going to come back and transfer. But passport, passport, passport. Get it now.
Um, yeah, and I was going to say, and I think you covered like the ensuring that the credits transfer, because I think that would really affect a lot of students if they didn't
Hmm.
get that. It's very similar to students that take a course at a school that's close to home over the summer. We
Correct.
want to make sure that we're going to accept it the way that they want to send it over.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And my office is there to help you figure out where you want to go, what you want to do. I can attest to many of our providers because I work with them very closely. We have students that we will hold student sessions and they'll like help you and they'll say, "Oh, well, I did it with this or I did this or I didn't like that or one thing I wish I could have done better." And so they will help you with all of those different things. But we are your resource and we're happy to help you.
I just put the two websites in the chat for everyone so that they're able to see those. It looks like we've got the main website and then the second one. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that one?
Sure. So the first one is just the main website where there's basic information there. There is a link to what I call our Global Ed portal or study abroad portal. That's that second link there. If you don't have the links and you're like, oh my gosh, I wanted to look at it, just Google Flagler College Study Abroad. It'll bring you there. But there's a place that we call our Global Ed portal, and that is where we house all of our programs. So if you're wanting to see like what flagships are on for next year, you can go ahead and look at those now. If you want to see what kind of faculty-led programs have run in the past, you can see those. If you want to see what our semester abroad
Mm.
options look like, you can look at that now. We do have a little fact sheet that we've posted on there. I think it says like quick start guide or something where it kind of helps you think about questions to ask so that you can figure out which experience makes the most sense to you. But definitely kind of peruse the websites and see what information that you can go ahead and start researching to where when you come to me and say, I want to go here and I want to study this, and we can make it happen.
So really, I think our last question is, outside of the website, what's the best way to reach you all if there's other questions or students want to, start planning ahead?
Yeah, global at flagler.edu. That is our email address. It is the best way to reach us. We have multiple people that monitor that account. So feel free to shoot an email to global@flagler.edu. Again, if you're wanting to do a semester abroad and you're coming in as a freshman and you're like, I want to meet with you as soon as possible to set it up. I love your enthusiasm and I'm happy to meet with you and chat with you, but there's nothing we can physically do just yet because we simply don't have the information we need from our partner institutions. But always happy to chat with you and get to know you and learn more about what it is that you want. And the other thing is, one of the benefits of being at a school like Flagler is if you come to me and say, I really want to go to Greece, but I can only do it if we have an exchange program where all of my tuition and scholarships stay in place. I could work for 2 years and maybe secure an agreement with a place in Greece to where we could now send you and other students. So come and see me. Let me see what we can do to help you, and then let's
Share the
get you going somewhere.
interest. Yeah, get the
Yeah,
ideas
exactly.
going because there's
But it
probably
also
others.
and it also helps us plan for flagship because students don't realize this. Flagships change every year.
Hmm.
And I joke and say that it's like TikTok inspired, but we hear from students like where they're wanting to go, and so faculty submit proposals, and a lot of it is kind of ebbs and flows with trends. So if there's a place you're like, I really, really, really would love for a faculty to do this, come tell me because then I can let the people know, like, hey,
You
students are
know,
wanting to
we
go
can do
here. Yeah,
this.
exactly. Somebody proposed this. So definitely just come and see us. We've got a great space to hang out and chat, and we would love to hear your ideas.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for joining us tonight. It looks like we got through all of our questions. And again, those links are in the chat for anybody who needs them. Global at flagler.edu with any other questions or things like that. But as a reminder, we have our next. I think we've got a webinar next week that might be on campus safety. I am embarrassed to
July
forget.
15th.
Yes, I think we have one that's next week though, but please check the
Oh,
family
okay.
portal. Yes, I do know that we've got a campus safety one coming up, but I didn't want us to forget that we've got the first week of July this week, and then we've got the
Yep.
second week next week. So, but thank you again so much. If there are any other questions outside of the topic that we chatted about, orientation at flagler.edu is the best way to get a hold of us. But thank y'all so much and happy 4th of July.
Thank you, everybody, for your time.